This is my review of Bluetti's Apex 300. This is an evolutionary step in the Bluetti product line, and to understand why it's a significant evolutionary step, we have to go back in time and talk about the AC300 and or the AC500. Now, the AC300 was a 3,000 watt inverter, but it didn't have any battery capacity. It was just what they called the head unit only. And then, so the charge rectifier for AC charging was in there, the charge controller for the batteries were in there, and the inverter was there, but there were no batteries to speak of. You had to buy additional batteries, the B300s or the B300Ss, and you would expand as many batteries as you need. And it was the same thing with the AC500. They did it was a 5,000 watt inverter. Well, on both of those units, if they had only 120 watts AC available. If you wanted 240 watts to use it for a whole house application, you had to go ahead and buy this thing called the Fusion box, and a second head unit. So you'd have two, for instance, AC300s, and you would plug the Fusion box into each one, and then it would come together and it would have a 240 volt AC output. So you had to have two head units in addition to the Fusion box and batteries for both of them, for the AC300 and the AC500 both. But now, the reason why this is a major step in the Bluetti product line is we have it's all in one. We have AC 120 volts AC or 240 volts AC with a battery, and the 3,840 watt inverter. So the battery is 2,764.8 watt hours, and that's the only time I'm going to say that. From here on out, I'll refer to it as 2,700 watt hour battery. The inverters, like I said, 3,840 watts of output, and that's pretty good, and 240 volts at the flick of a switch. So now you can take this, and this is an all-in-one in itself. You can supply all your needs. Now, the battery, 2,700 watt hour battery, is not that giant, but you can go ahead and add expansion batteries. And the newest battery in the Bluetti lineup is the B300K, and it's a perfect match for this. It's the exact same battery that's in here is the expansion battery. You can have up to 6 B300Ks for a total of 19.3 kilowatt hours in this stack. And then the 3,800 watt inverter. Yeah, it's not too bad. And there are ways to additionally expand that also. Let me go ahead and talk about the outputs though. On the front of the panel here, you have 4 120 watt AC outputs, which is standard. And you'll notice there are no DC outputs on this unit. Now, if you want the DC, there's an additional accessory that will plug into the battery port over here, and it's called the Hub D1, and it has a full suite of 12 volt DC and 5 volt DC outlets that you could use. But Bluetti elected to keep them off of this panel. The good news is, on the end here, we have 2 outputs and 1 input output. It has a NEMA L1450R, which is a 50 amp max, 240 volt AC output, very common connector. Then we also have the NEMA TT30R, which is commonly called the RV connection or the RV plug, and that's a 30 amp, 120 volt connection. And then we have a proprietary made by Bluetti connection. It's the P050A, and I like to call it the expansion port. That is an input and an output. I'll talk more about that in just a second. So if you did the full stack of 6 batteries and you have this massive output or battery capacity, but you still only have a 3,840 watt hour inverter, there is a way to expand this system. And what you do is you purchase the Hub A1, you plug it into the expansion port in here, and then you could double or triple this system. So what you would do is you buy an additional Apex 300 with some batteries, and then you would have an output of up to 760 or 7,680 kilowatt hours, and up to, depending on how many batteries you buy, 38.7 kilowatt hours of power. And if that ain't enough, you can triple it through the hub A1 connection and put 3 of these units, which maximum batteries, you would have 11.5 kilowatt hours of output and 58 kilowatt hours of battery capacity, which is just massive. Now on the charging side, it's a little bit different. We have 2 XT60 connectors here for just your local charging connections, and those are, there's 2 of them because there's 2 charge controllers in here, and those are 1200 watts each input and up to 60 volts DC max. Now, a lot of people complain about that. 60 volts DC input isn't very much. So you could get, for instance, 2 12-volt panels. A typical 12-volt panel is going to have 25-volt open circuit voltage, and that's pretty high. So it means you can get 2 of those in series, and you're already at the max voltage input. And you would never want to exceed that max voltage input. I was looking on Amazon the other day. They had 200-watt panels with 200-watt 12-volt panels. If you could put 2 of them in series, you'd get 400 watts, and you'd already be at your max. So if you wanted to go any more, you'd have to hook them up in parallel. So yes, you could get 1200 watts, but they wouldn't be in one series string. They'd have to be in parallel. But you could do it twice, and so you could get up to 2400 watts of input here. Realistically, it's a little bit tough to do that. But there is another thing. There's the Solar X, the Solar X product, which is another accessory. It's called the Solar X 4K, and that would hook up again through the hub A1 and or the expansion port here, and you can get 500 volts DC input and 4000 watts input here. So at that point, you can still get the 1200 watts per channel. 2400 watt charging here and an additional 4000 watts here for a total of 6400 watts input, which means you could charge this thing quite easily even if you had the full stack of batteries. And that's the Solar X 4K unit. Now it still does have the legacy charging options of the 12-volt cigarette lighter option, which will give you right around 100 watts input, and there's even a lead acid battery charging cable you could buy, and those are their legacy inputs, and they work, and they're not really very realistic. But if you were on a long road trip across country or something, I guess you could use them and charge up, and it's not that bad. You do have the option of the Charger 1, which will give you 540 watts of input. So there's a lot of different options for expanding this system, charging it, expanding, and there's many different ways of charging it. And then you also have the system itself. You can use it as a standalone system here, or you can expand it up to 3 times as much with the full suite of batteries and just have a massive whole home system. Additionally, you could charge this with they're going to offer an accessory from this expansion port here with this connector from the NEMA L1450R or the TT30R plug, which would go into this expansion port here and allow you to charge in turbo mode there, which is a great thing. And I'll probably be purchasing that cable there. And then of course you do have a generator. You can use AC from the grid up to, I believe, 2400 watts input. I forget what it is from the just regular wall outlet, or you could use a generator. And with the generator, you'd want to enable a feature through the app called Grid Self Adaptation Mode, which will take a home generator, whether it be an inverter generator or a straight up frequency generator, and it'll allow it to, there could be little variances in those outputs of those generators, and it smooths that output a little to where the inverter, the rectifier here will help smooth out and charge. A lot of these rectifiers, these charging rectifiers from AC inputs, they're a little bit fussy over unclean power. So you have that mode, and then it'll allow that to work through just a home generator. Oh, and there's one other feature I forgot to mention. It's called bypass mode, or bypass charging mode. Some of the older Bluetti products had something that was called pass-through charging, whereas you could charge the unit and utilize this power at the same time. This is similar but different. So bypass mode or bypass charging mode, you can, believe it or not, this is a 3800 watt inverter, but if you bring in the AC power in bypass mode, you can actually have 6,000 watts at 120 volts output, because you're using AC straight from the grid through this plus the capacity of the inverter, and you can have 6,000 watts output, and you can charge and use the unit at the same time. And if you come in off of the 240 volt connection through the expansion port again, you can actually have 12,000 watts of capacity from just a little 3800 watt inverter, but you can still have 12,000 watts output. So that's a pretty good deal there too. And that's bypass charging. And you would think, well, if I have AC power available, why would I need to go through here? Well, if you're already connected up to your whole home at this, or your RV, this would be the way to bring the AC in and then distribute it out without having to disconnect or bypass anything. Bluetti has figured it out to do it for you in one unit. So it's actually a really nice feature. I'd like to take a second and talk about the front panel here. Some of the settings and the buttons available. Obviously, you have the power on, off. Then you have your charging mode, which is silent, auto, and turbo. Silent is low power. For instance, that 12-volt cigarette lighter adapter mode, you'd want to use that. Or it's a very low charge input if you're in silent mode, and the fans won't run, and it's a very slow charge rate. You have auto, which is what I use, and then you have turbo mode, which is if you're using the expansion port here in the back, you have a very high input, a 240 or high current on 120, and you can charge this unit very quickly in turbo mode. We also have the AC on and off, and the eco mode button, which just puts it in eco mode, which allows the unit, if the power draw from this unit gets down so low, rather than let it just remain on and the entire time it just automatically shuts off. It's a very useful feature. You want that. Although the actual parasitic load, or the amount of draw when this thing is in idle standby, is very low, so it'll last a long time. Right here I have 87% power or capacity in my batteries, and in just this standby mode with AC off, it will last 8.8 days. And with the 120 volt on, it says there it goes. It says 5.9 days in standby mode. So that's pretty good standby power. So there are a couple features available right from the panel. If you push Eco and AC and hold them, you enter the setup mode, and there's 7 or 8 channels. Channel 1 is you select the hertz, 50 or 60 hertz, and you push the Eco button here, and it'll scroll through. Channel 2 doesn't, selection 2 doesn't exist. I think Bluetti's reserving that for future use. Number 3 is the Eco mode. Number 4 is powerlifting mode, where you'll have like 7,680 watts of power from the inverter alone if you're in powerlifting mode, which is only for resistive loads only, not reactive loads. There's a whole video in itself on that. But it will work, and that's for like anything like an electric heater or resistive load. Number 5 is Eco on off. Number 6 is Bluetooth on off. 7 is Wi-Fi on off, and 8 is the child lock, so the kids can't mess with it. And then you can it'll turn off automatically in 1 minute, or you can turn it off again by holding both buttons down. And now I'd like to go ahead and show you a really nice feature of the expansion battery and the cable and how that all works. Alright, this is the latest battery offering from Bluetti. It's the B300K. It's the same chemistry and the same watt hours as what's already installed in the Apex 300. The new thing that a lot of people are excited about is what I call the zero clearance battery connector. It's made for the Apex 300 and B300K, and it hooks up without taking up a lot of room. The old style, this is backwards compatible with the B300 and the B300S, but you won't be able to use this connector. Let me go ahead and hook this up for you and we'll get going again. Okay, there we are, all hooked up, and let me go ahead and turn it on. And then, of course, the B300K will automatically turn on. And now I still have the same inverter capacity or output of 3840 watts, but now I've doubled my battery capacity. I have roughly 5,500 watts of battery capacity. And I could, like I said, I could go up to 6 B300Ks, or I believe it's 4 B300Ss and B300s. But you'll want to get the latest and the greatest battery offering from Bluetti. And then, of course, you do have the Bluetti app, which gives you the full suite of advanced settings. You can turn the unit off, monitor it, and then set up how you want it to charge, whether you want eco mode on and off. And there's just a full suite of settings available. And, of course, they're always improving their apps and offering more features. So the app kind of goes hand in hand. You should always have the app with these devices. And now I'd like to talk about the different uses for this product. The good news is this has a wide range because it's so expandable and modular. It has a wide range of uses as well. I didn't mention it before, but this unit weighs 84 pounds. And the expansion batteries, I believe, are 65. 84 pounds is super heavy. This is not the unit that you're going to let's go to the beach and we'll have a picnic and we'll just bring this and we'll set it in the sand or on the picnic table next to us and run some pointless AC device that we need. Bluetti does have offerings that are better suited to that, but this ain't it. But if you were car camping, I could see this being used. You roll up in your car, either leave it in your car, you're going for a long weekend, say, and then you could haul it over to your campsite and you'd have full AC power, no problem. You could do whatever you needed to do. But ideally, the use for this begins at the van life people that are driving around in their conversion vans on vacation and or RV people. This is where it's at. You buy this unit, you figure out how many batteries you need, and you're good to go on your RV or van. The charging options are obviously with the Charger 1, 540 watts. Yeah, you got the cigarette lighter adapter. It's kind of not really a viable one, but it's available. And then you could have solar panels, either the portable panels you set up when you get to your campsite or the roof mounted panels. But once again, you're limited at 60 volts input total per channel and up to 1200 watts. So it's not ideal, but it'll get you good because you're probably not going to have a massive expansion of batteries on this unit anyways if you're just in an RV or van. The next one up would be home use. Is kind of where I fit in, where it'd be backup, emergency power, or alternate power supply for if there's a grid down situation or for some reason you needed remote power somewhere. This is ideally suited. I'll be using the grid power to recharge this unit and or my generator. Bluetti offers a connection with their expansion port with either the NEMA L1450R or the TT30R plug, where you can just go right in off a high current output and charging turbo mode, which is a great feature. After that, we're talking about whole home use. You could go ahead off grid for sure, but even your regular home, if you don't want to be connected to the grid anymore, you could buy this, times it by 2 or 3, get the required accessories, the hub A1 and the Solar X4K, and man, put solar on your roof and you're golden. You're good, especially if you live in the Sunbelt portion of the United States. Man, you can't beat it. This is it. No more relying on the utility at all. This will drive your whole home and take care of everything. Unfortunately, bring your checkbook when you buy this stuff. Bluetti ain't giving it away for free, and there are some accessories like expansion batteries and the other accessories, cables and hubs and whatever that you do need to make it really get the full of experience or the full availability of what it'll do, the capabilities of what it'll do. But otherwise than that, you're good to go. This is an all-in-one from the person driving around the country in their van all the way up to the off-grid homeowner that wants full power, 240 volts AC, and is limitless. I'd like to talk a little bit about why you should consider one of these units. There's 3 or 4 of these producers out here in the United States that are really the top of the line producers of this. Bluetti is, in my opinion, is the best. But there are others. But the rest of them, there's a whole just dozens of companies out there trying to sell the smaller units all over the place. And it's because they're very popular. But you should consider one of the top producers of these, like Bluetti. The reason why is I got out of the Navy, I hired on as a power plant operator, and I worked at a mid-sized power plant for 22 years in California. So I understand a lot about how energy is generated and how the grid operates. And I saw the effects of the grid in the springtime when there's a lot of hydro, in the summer when there's a high demand on the grid. I saw the effects of earthquakes and other weather-related events. And I wouldn't try to put you off and scare you that the grid's unreliable or anything like that. At least in the United States, it's actually quite reliable. You have the full capacity of your system available at the flick of a switch 24/7, 365, not including weather events and outages and stuff, but they do a pretty good job. But I also saw the evolution of solar and roof-mounted solar systems, and the forced closure of a lot of plants and the change of energy policy in the United States during that time. And the reason why I love these things and just think they're great is you're taking control of your own destiny. A lot of the energy policy in the United States isn't dictated by reasonable, rational thought process, with regards to reliability, as more as there's politicians being influenced by other people, and they're creating policy that's not necessarily in the best interest of the consumer. There will always be a need for heavy base-loaded generation, factories, large commercial operations, heavy industrial operations always need power. There'll always be a grid in the United States. But then it all trickles down to the residential areas, and you now have a choice. You don't have to be connected to the grid if you don't want. You can go ahead and it's called point of use. You can put a solar system on your roof, you can have a battery bank, you can have a whole house inverter, and you can run your whole stuff, all of your needs without the need of the utility. And it's a great thing. The utility, you can still be connected to the grid, but it could be your backup power supply. And I am very suspicious of politicians and the way that they influence our energy policy. And I would argue that they do not have our best interest in mind at all times. Good news is, at point of use, you can break out your checkbook. This stuff ain't free, but you can go ahead and you can set your whole self up and have 100% energy security for you and your family by just installing one of these systems or something like it. A large inverter, plenty of battery capacity, and solar charging. And especially if I've said it 3 times now, if you live in the Sun Belt, it's a no-brainer. It's a slam dunk. So you should definitely consider. And this product here, especially with its expandability, is a good choice.